Alright, so I want to go over again the practice modeling with quadratic functions 4-3, which was the last assignment that we had when we were together. So we're going to use all of our x coordinates and all of our y coordinates and plug them in for the y and the x of our standard form. So we're going to have three equations for point 1, for point 2, and for point 3. So I'm going to write it with the y on the right side. Know that it does not make any difference. So I'll have a x squared plus b x plus c equals y. And then I will have a, and I will use the x from the second point, squared plus b x from the second point plus c equals the y from the second point. And lastly, the equation using x from point 3. And using y from point 3. Now each of these x terms for the quadratic term is being squared. So we need to rewrite each of these equations so that I have 1 squared, which is just 1. And we can put a 1 in front of the c. And now 2 squared, that's going to be 4. We can put a 1 in front of the c. 3 squared will be 9. And now we're going to use 2 of these equations to eliminate one of our variables and get our first star equation. Now, to me, it makes most sense if I were to eliminate c. So I'm going to choose to keep the first equation the same, and I'm going to multiply the second equation by -1. So no change here. But for number 2, I'm going to do -1 times -4a, or times +4a rather. -1 times +2b. -1 times the 1c. -1 times the -5. So this is coming from multiplying this -1 by everything in equation 2. Each term resulting in this equation here. So when I combine these equations and I get my first star equation, I'm going to be left with a -3a, -1b. My c's cancel. Now I'm going to use 2 different equations. I already used 1 and 2, but I still need to eliminate c. So I'm going to eliminate c. I'm going to use 1 and 3. And I'm going to do the same thing, keeping equation 1 the same, and multiplying equation 3 by -1. So I've got -9a minus 3b minus 1c equals 7. Now remember, this comes from multiplying -1 by everything in equation 3. I'm going to add these together. I've got a negative 8a, negative 2b. My c's cancel. Now I have my second star equation. I want to use these two star equations to eliminate another variable. Now for me it makes sense. I'm going to eliminate b. Okay. So using equation star 1 and equation star 2, I'm going to multiply equation star 1 by negative 2 so that I have negative 2 times negative 3a. Let's do this in black. Negative 2 times negative 1b. Negative 2 times 4. And equation 2 I'm going to keep exactly, oops, this should be 2. Negative 2, there we go. Negative 8a minus 2b equals 6. And now I knew I made a mistake because my whole intention was to eliminate b right here. So I want these to cancel. So I'm going to add these together. I have minus 2a. The b's cancel, negative 2. So I'm going to solve for a. Anything divided by itself. So I know my a is 1. Now I'm going to use one of these star equations and I'm going to solve for b. So if I use star 1, which you hear is my cat, and I plug in negative 3, but now instead of a, I plug in 1. I've got a negative 3 times 1. I'm going to add the 3. Negative b equals 7. So then positive b equals negative 7. And now I'm going to lastly use one of my original equations. Let's use this one right up top. So I'm going to plug in a is 1. Here's my a. My b we have as 1, negative 7 is my b. And what I don't know is c. So I've got 1 times 1. 1 times negative 7. 1 minus 7. I'm going to add the 6 to both sides. And I'll find my c is 5. So the equation, when I put all together, my a and my b and my c, a is 1, x squared, b is negative 7, x, and c is 5. All right, I'm going to make this really clearly. This is my final answer. Okay, so I'm going to go on to number 2. I took up a bit more space. So I'm going to go a little bit quicker this time and invite you to look back where these numbers are coming from. So for x's, I still have 1, 2, 3. For y's, I have negative 4, negative 3, and again a negative 4. Okay, so my equations for 1 and 2 and 3 will be a x squared plus b x plus c equals y. A x plus b x plus c equals y. And lastly, a x plus b x. And these are squared. I haven't been saying that. Plus c equals -4. Okay, so I still need to square that quadratic coefficient here. So my equations 1, 2, and 3 become 1a plus 1b plus 1c equals -4. Now we've got 4a plus 2b plus 1c equals -3. And then we have 9a plus, oops, I made a mistake here. It should be 3b plus 1c equals -4. Okay, again, I'm going to eliminate c. This is what makes sense because all I need to do is multiply one of these equations by a -1. Okay, so how about we just use 2 and 3 and work with the space that we have here. Let's just multiply this bottom one by -1 and keep the second equation exactly as it is. So I'm going to multiply the -1 by the 9a, the -1 by the 3b, by the 1c, and by the -4. Now this, ooh, could not see that. Got to be more mindful of that. Here we go. Okay, so now when I add this, this is going to give me my first star equation. So I have a -5a, a -1b, my c's cancel, and we've got equals 1. So I used equations 2 and 3. So when I eliminate c a second time, I need to use 2 different equations. Let's do 1 and 2. And I need to eliminate the same variable. Hey, let's just do the second one. So let's keep the first one the same. 1a plus 1b plus 1c equals -4. And let's multiply this second equation by -1. So I have -4a, -2b, -1c, and now we've got a +3 here. When I combine these, I'm going to get my second star equation. So here I have a -3a, a -1b, my c's cancel, and I'm left with this equation here. Now I have my 2 prime equations. Each of these equations has 2 variables. So I eliminated first c. Now I'm going to look at and take a look and see what makes sense to eliminate for equation 1 star and 2 stars. So I'm going to choose to eliminate b. I think that makes most sense because here I have a -1. All I need to do is multiply one of these by -1. So I'm going to keep the first star equation exactly the same. And I'm going to multiply everything in the second star equation by a -1. So I have a +3a, a +1b, a +1. Here I'll have a -2a. My b's cancel. Now I'm going to solve for a. So my first variable a is -1. Now I'm going to use a star equation. Does not matter which one. We may as well just use this one. So I'm using star equation 2, and instead of plugging in the letter a, I'm going to use -1. Got a -3 times a -1. I'm going to subtract my 3. B equals -4, so then B equals +4. Got 2 out of 3 variables. I'm going to look up at the top. It seems this equation is the simplest. Instead of A, I'm going to put -1. Instead of B, I'm going to put 4. Don't know what C is still. -1 times 1. We've got a +4 plus C. This here will give me 3. I'm going to subtract 3, subtract 3. So lastly, my C is -7, giving me an equation y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay, and then the third one I'm going to move through even quicker, and for numbers 4 through 8 I will just give you the answers. Please be sure to do these out so that you have a firm understanding, and check back in the video once you've solved them all out. So we've got our x variables are now 2 and 3 and 6. Y variables -8, -8, and 4. So our 3 equations will be ax squared plus bx, 2, plus c equals y. And then again we will have x squared plus bx plus c equals -8. And lastly, for the last point, x squared plus bx plus c equals 4. We need to square those quadratic coefficients. So let's tidy up these equations, and keeping them labeled again just to create an environment where you're not going to be so stressed out when you make a mistake. So here we've got 4a plus 2b plus 1c equals -8. 3 squared gives us 9a. 3b, 1c equals -8. 6 squared, 36a plus 6b plus 1c equals 4. We are going to use 2 equations to eliminate our first variable. It seems that the common theme is eliminating c is the choice to make. In the interest of space, again, let's do 2 and 3. So if I want to eliminate c, I need to multiply one of these equations by -1. So now I'll have a -9a and a -3b minus 1c equals +8. Equation 3 is going to stay exactly the same. 36a plus 6b plus 1c equals 4. Adding these together will give me my first star equation. So I've got a -9a plus a 36a, -3b plus 6b. My c's cancel. Okay. Now I'm going to use 2 different equations. I already used 2 and 3, so let's do 1 and 2. Still going to eliminate c. So I'm going to multiply one of these by a -1. I'm going to keep the first equation exactly the same. Second equation will now have -9a minus 3b minus 1c +8. This is going to give me my second star equation. I've got a minus 5a, a minus 1b. My c's cancel. Now, 0 is a number. Don't let 0 confuse you. I'm going to use my 2' equations. Star 1, star 2. And I'm going to take a look what it makes sense to eliminate. Well, I think it makes sense to eliminate b. Seems we're doing the same method. So I'm going to just multiply equation 1 by a positive 3. Okay, equation 2 is going to stay exactly the same. And equation 1, I'm going to multiply everything by 3. So we've got 81a plus 9. Equation 2 needs to be multiplied by 3. Oh, let's try this again. I did that backwards. For those of you following at home, which is all of you, let's have a good chuckle. I hope you've all missed Miss M's silliness and her mistake. I sure have missed all of you. Okay, let's try this round 2. Equation 1, and there's no whiteout because I still have not bought in whiteout. Got my priorities straight, I say. Alright. So we're going to multiply everything here by a 3. So I've got negative 15a minus 3b. 0 times 3 is still 0. So here I've got 12a equals 12. Anything divided by itself, first variable. How about we use star equation 2, and instead of a, now we're going to plug in 1. So I've got negative 5 minus b equals 0. How about we add this 5? We've got negative b equals 5. So then positive b equals negative 5. And lastly, let's use equation 1 because I like those small numbers. Instead of a, let's put 1. Instead of b, let's put negative 5. We still don't know what c is. That's what we're solving for. So we've got 2 times negative 5. 4 minus 10. And lastly, we're going to add the 6. So our final answer, I hope you guys are just having as much fun as I am. Ax squared plus bx plus c final answer. Okay, so for equation 4, we've got y equals negative x squared plus 3x minus 8. And that's using negative 1, negative 12, 2, negative 6, 4, negative 12. For number 5, using negative 1, negative 12, 0, negative 6, 3, and 0, you should get y equals negative x squared plus 5x minus 6. Number 6, using these coordinates, you should get y equals x squared plus 2x minus 4. Number 7, using these coordinates, this looks like a little owl. Okay. You should get y equals negative x squared plus 5x. This means c was 0 when you did that one out. And then lastly, using these coordinates, y equals x squared, you should have got b equals 0 here. All right. Be happy, be well. Please take a picture and send your homework to me best you can. I will put instructions on the feed. Take care.